David Wilcox, but it is love that wrote the play.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Do you know that? Do you know that piece?
I don't.
I don't. I'm gonna.
I want to.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So 9/11. There's a I forget what the public radio station is in Philadelphia. On Tuesday, 9/11, 2001, that station put David Wilcox's show the way and just played it over and over again.
Wow.
Throughout the day. It's a powerful tribute to what it means to become who we long to become as followers of Jesus in the face of a shaming, violent world.
Mm-hmm. There were two things that came up for me. One of them is talking about people rather than with people. And I don't know where I saw this or who said it to me, but they gave me the idea of saying, I made up a story about you. So you tell me if it's true or not. And
Right.
It's like, that is so, it's not, the other person is then not defensive because they're like, okay, I'll tell you if that's true. And I think I've probably said it to both of you, but it's like, okay, I've made up a story, blah, blah, blah. And then it's a conversation.
And to experience the other end, the other side of that, when somebody come, I was at a party with people that I worked with. This was out in California, and a couple of them were kind of new relationships. And one guy that we obviously sort of ended up together in this. We were talking in this party, and I was joking with him about some stuff, and I went. He didn't. We didn't know each other at the point, and the next day he called me up, and he said, "Hey, listen, I got to tell you what I perceived happened last night, and I'm telling you this because I'm fond of you, and I think we could, basically be friends. But I didn't like this, and I don't understand it." And it was such a healing moment. I mean, it was such a gift. And I was able to then, instead of him continuing to tell this story about me and just he could have just written me off.
Right.
The amount of respect that I had for him for calling me. Yeah. And talked about me. And instead of talking about me, he came and talked with me. And I just appreciated it so much.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I remember it'll be 3 years this October that I sold my practice to the person who is now the owner, Courtney Morrison, or my colleague and the clinical director of the practice, who is just a gem. But the whole process of doing that and transferring leadership and so forth, like not long after that happened, I may have told this story before. I entered into a period in which I the story that I'm telling that she thinks is that I'm really not necessary anymore. And it was so strange. It wasn't long after it happened. It was after a staff meeting, and I came back to my office, and Courtney's office was right next to mine. It was open. There were a couple of people that came into her office, and they were chatting. I couldn't understand what they were saying, but our doors were open, and just a lot of energy and laughter. And I sit in my office, and I'm thinking, I don't
matter.
I don't matter. I'm done here. And this is like less than a month after it's happened.
It's a story you made up, right? For sure.
Right, of course, yeah. And of course, it didn't it didn't just happen one time. Like our shame attendant continues to revisit us. It's not going to go quietly into the night. Mm-hmm. So Courtney and I have had this. I mean, she's kind of aware that she's like sometimes she's my sister, sometimes she's my mom. In which part of her role is to say, okay, why don't you tell me what you're thinking that I'm thinking? Tell me the story about the story you think I'm telling.
Oh.
And I like it. So we've gotten into this rhythm of, and I say to her, like, here's the story that I'm going to tell you the story that of the story that I think you're thinking about me. And so to your point, Pepper, like it has now become a routine that prevents shame from throwing sand in the gears.
Yeah.
But it's funny. It's like, okay, it is a routine now, but it's not like, oh, now it's always now just seamless. It's easy to do, right? No, like there's always just this hint of worry. Will this be the time that the story that I'm telling is actually true?
Every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you hear Lex barking?
Yeah, I can.
I'm gonna go to.
That's not a story that I'm making up, is it?
That is not a story. I think he heard me.
I mean, big.
So now he's like, I can hear you. He's awake now. The other thing that hit me, and oh my gosh, okay, so as you'll often ask, Curt, in which story are we living? And talking in this chapter about God's intention and evil's intention, to me, it's like, oh my gosh, that's the macro, I think. Is that the macro? That is.
Yeah.
And then the application, if that's too much, is that too much?
No.
Like too much?
Oh,
Keep going.
The dog? No, we're good.
Then a couple of weeks ago, the application was during your day, just stop at random times and spend a little bit of time just like taking inventory. What am I sensing, imaging? What am I feeling? What story am I telling? And so I did that. And oh my gosh, like every time I did that, I had so much anxiety. There was something that I was anxious about. And like I was planning a fishing trip with my cousin. Should not be anxiety provoking. But I'm like, oh my gosh, but that's going to affect this. And they're going to, I'm like, plan the fishing trip. But what hit me was that, okay, I am experiencing more anxiety than I realized.
Mm-hmm.
Like things get worse before they get better. But that is the hard work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, then it's easy to tell, am I living like evil's intention? My response to that is usually no to a big life and no to a fun life.
Mm-hmm.
And God's intention is a very big life. And so it's like, I can feel those things, and it's easier. My daily stories reflect which story I'm really living in.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the simple thing of like when I'm uncomfortable, if I just cross my arms, I just hold it like this, and like the short term effect is that I feel more comfortable. The challenge is that if I hold this posture for a long enough period of time, like it becomes really, really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's actually hard on the body.
Mm-hmm.
If I open my arms, the short-term effect is that
Yeah.
But if I'm willing to name that and pay attention to it and breathe into it, not only am I able to move through that, but you then set the stage for much greater mobility and freedom and much more comfort over time. I mean, it's not unlike, these would be versions of what we would say, this is what it's like for us to withdraw from our addictions. That, it is said that, once you smoke more than about 3 or 4 cigarettes a day, you're no longer smoking because you want to smoke. You're mostly smoking to prevent withdrawal. Nicotine's has that kind of impact. You're mostly.
I've talked to heroin addicts, opioid addicts, who have said that they're more afraid. Like one of the things that keeps them doing it is they're just so terrified of having to go through what they know they have to go through in order to not do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say that that's exactly what evil intends for us to be afraid of when it comes to retelling our stories.
Wait, say that again. This is what?
I'm afraid. Evil intends for me to be afraid of the withdrawal effect of beginning to tell my story differently, because there is going to be a period of withdrawal.
There's
There
no
is going to be
avoiding
that
that.
period. No, so like when we do this shame inventory that we'll talk about a little later, but we've already really basically been starting to do this. When you pause, Amy, as you were saying, and you start to think, like, oh, I'm going to consider, what am I sensing? And then you now I'm aware. I was actually 30 seconds ago, I was fine. I was fine because I wasn't feeling this acute sense of what's actually underneath. No, because I've done my work to create I have my, whatever my behavioral drug of choice is, my cognitive state, whatever it is I do to prevent myself from feeling that distress. Because I think that once I encounter the distress, it's going to be too overwhelming. I am not okay. But that is the distress that I am walking around with all the time, all day, every day. Anyway, I've just found a way to contain it. That's a ton of energy that I have to burn. That is not available for me to create beauty and goodness in the world.
Yeah.
I'm too busy talking or being about something rather than with. I don't want to be with my anxiety.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Being with rather than about.
It's like being with my body if I'm going to give up my heroin. Ugh. And as we'll see, in order for that to happen effectively, it requires the presence of other people, which is, part of our challenge is that shame has worked so well to keep me disconnected from others.
Isolated, and then the fear of the vulnerability,
right,
which is
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That fear of that sense that I anticipate that all the things that show up in that picture of, all those movements of Eve and Adam to move further and further and further away from each other, from God and from the world, and so just deeper into the forest. It's because I don't have to face the fear that he's coming to kill me.
Right.
Whatever the it and the he is. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have something else, Amy?
Well, no, I said the two, talking about rather than with, and the macro and micro. But I have to tell you this because it happened in this moment. So talk about somebody coming to find you. So Lex was barking, right? So I have my apartment next to me is where Lex lives. Their family is out of town. My other neighbor is watching Lex. Lex was in his apartment hanging out. She knows I'm recording. That neighbor knows I'm recording. She heard Lex barking. I see her come out of her apartment, walk down the hallway, get Lex out of his apartment, take him home.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I'm like, she just did that. Because no Lex, right? There's no barking.
So, I mean, again, this is one of those, like the isolation thing, right? We're having the conversation, the dog is barking, and I'd be, I mean, not to put you on the spot, but I'm wondering, like, okay, what's it like for you to be you while you're aware that the dog is now barking?
Because I've tried to avoid it. I knew the situation. I knew how it might go, but I can't fully,
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're aware of it. And then Amul goes and gets him. And yeah.
I mean, it's, and so this notion that, it goes and gets him, and I'm not going to be alone. I'm not going to be alone in this. I'm not, we're fine. We're good.
Yeah.
Good. Could you please just make sure it doesn't happen?
No, I don't want to do that again. But I'm not going to. Yeah.
It's okay, but I am kind of sick of it.
Yeah. Both could be true, right? Yeah. But you're saying for you. Are you speaking for me or for you?
I think he's speaking for himself.
Him. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to get a
Yes, I'm and it. Yeah.
Ooh, it's good. This is so good.
All right.
All right, guys.
So
see you next week. Oh, no.
Yeah.
What were we going to say?
No, see you next week.
All right.
I had something really profound to say.
It's gonna
We'll
be
pick it
prevalent.
up later.
Look,
Yeah.
wait.
Wait,
No,
The
you don't.
prevalence of my profound.
I want you to prevail upon us.
Yes.
Prevail.
Curt got prevalent in there
Come
at
on.
the end. You said prevalent at
Yeah,
the end.
yeah, the word. Yeah. Come on, can you not prevail upon us?
I can't. I
Okay.
can't.
Would it be it would be too much for us?
It would be, I would then be prevalent in your minds far too long. So I'm going to free you of that responsibility and take my prevalence with me.
Okay, one last story, real quick. I have this part of me that feels, the times it feels unwantable, and I've said before, right? I'm worried that if we stop talking, like I'm just going to go away, I'm going to disappear from your mind. And I have one really good friend, and she says, like, Curt, like, you need to know, like, that's not the problem. I can't tell you how hard I work to keep you from being in my mind. Like, is that a good thing?
Take everything as a compliment.
Yeah, it makes life a lot better. All right, guys.
All right.
Have a
Have a
great
good week.
weekend. We'll see you
All right.
next week.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.